Well, judging by everything that was going on before the show, Aaron might end up hairless by the end of this broadcast.
Possibly.
Welcome everybody to Bald and Bonkers. I'm Dakota Franson. Chris is taking the night off. He's got some issues. I mean, who doesn't lately? But tonight we do have a treat. We have Iron City Paranormal. We had Derek and Aaron joining us for the first time to show some of their evidence they've caught from some pretty interesting locations. I haven't had a chance to take a look at it myself, but from what y'all told me, I'm very intrigued to see what you got.
Well, I mean, this one stems back to that investigation that you joined us virtually on when we were at the tattoo shop up in Mars. So it's the same town. So the more that we dig into this place, the more it seems like maybe there's something about the area more than anything.
Well, that wouldn't surprise me. They're starting to recognize you guys, so
Yeah, that's true too.
Shockingly excited to pop out.
Yeah, I mean the investigations at the tattoo shops were pretty intense as it was, as you can recall through a screen even, and that kind of led to so many other things. Well, we help co-host an event there called the Spooktacular that just benefits pretty much that entire main street and the township in general. But we met a lot of people, talked to a lot of people. People shared their stories. They were a little bit more open with us, and that led us to this investigation where we've actually heard about this. This is one of the more popular, I guess, locations of the area known to be haunted or said to be. But they'd never really had anybody in there to check it out. So the building itself holds an interesting history. It was actually moved. They currently house a cat, mummified cat that they found during reconstruction. So there's quite a bit that goes into this place, but there are a lot of question marks. More there's really not much documentation here, so we really didn't have much to go off of.
You know, why is it always the cats that get the business end, man? Come on, leave the animals alone.
Devil cats, right? That's what they're saying. They stick around, dogs don't. Dogs go to heaven, right? There's a movie about that.
Oh, yeah. But, I think we should give Erin a chance to introduce herself since it's the first time she's been on our show. Derek was telling me some very interesting things about you, all horrible, naturally, but...
Obviously.
She has too much hair. We got to start pulling it out.
Yes. Well, my kids are working.
I'm sure that'll happen.
Yeah.
So tell us about yourself, Erin.
Yeah. So I've been partnering with Derek and Dan here for almost a year, I guess, now coming in. Probably about 8 months, something like that.
I mean, on a regular basis. Before that, it was kind of on and off. And she actually had joined us, if you recall, the way that we started at my bachelor party.
Yes.
She actually joined us at her sister's bachelorette party. So that was an interesting turn of events. But
all right.
I was pregnant with my second at the time, so I didn't stay the entire time because whatever was there was very interested in my little one. So after the tour, I bolted. But I've known Dan and Derek for years. I actually grew up next to Derek. I've known him since I was 4 years old, I think. So known each other for a very long time. Decided that I wanted to come on with one of their investigations a while ago, and it was a lot of fun. And then just kind of like latched on from there, I guess. So it's been a very interesting last year or so. And just by starting this, I feel like it's kind of opened up a lot of different things in me personally that I hadn't been open to before. So that's been an interesting journey as well. But yeah, it's been great so far.
It's actually been very interesting for Dan and I to watch, because she came to us knowing that she was sensitive, having these sensations very similar to what Dan gets with certain tingling sensations, just her knowing things are there. But throughout a few investigations, it's like she really started to open up, and now she can just we can use her abilities to guide us, and that's kind of the point that we've gotten to, and it's really cool to see.
It's been very fun. Yeah, it's been very
Sounds
fun.
like it. Sounds like it. My goodness.
Mm-hmm.
So I already do have the file pulled up for all the evidence. Shall we get into that?
Yeah, I mean, have at it. If you want to go into just the pictures first, there, we can kind of guide you through a few things that we had noticed. I actually have a picture of the mummified cat in there, and we can kind of go through that too.
Chessie.
All right. Come on, load. Uh,
Give it time. Technology, you know.
I don't know. Oh dear
There
lord.
she is.
So the building itself was actually built in the 18, I want to say 1860s. I don't
Hmm.
recall off the top of my head now. I want to say it was the 1860s, and they actually had gained quite a business up there because that's north of the city. There's really not much else there. So this train station kind of became the main hub as the economy of the town grew. But eventually, as things do, the town kind of took a hit. The railroads weren't as popular, so they actually had closed the train station. Now they opened and closed it a few times throughout the years, but ultimately it shut its doors in, I want to say, the 1980s. From that, the historic district ended up buying it in, I want to say it was the mid 1990s, and they wanted to reconstruct it at least to a certain point and create a museum out of it. Basically, when they went in and they started reconstruction, they realized it was in horrible foundation condition, so there's no way to rebuild on top of it or anything. They decided to physically move the building. So they picked it up from its location, moved it across the train tracks actually, and kind of reconfigured the entire building to what it once was. During that period of time, the construction workers found this very cat buried in the foundation. And no one really knew anything about it until they started asking questions around the town um, that actually brought up this town cat. It was just a stray cat, but it would attach to some of the workers there, just the train station workers. It would follow him to work. It would hang out at the train station, and then it would follow him home and just disappear into an alley. And it happened for years, apparently. So much so that they nicknamed this cat after the Chessie train. So one day it just disappeared. No rhyme or reason. People just, assumed the worst, or maybe somebody took it in. Nobody really knew. So it kind of got lost. No one really talked about it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So this is actually thought to be that very cat who fell into one of the foundations, was trapped in there at some point somehow, and I'm assuming due to the elements there, it was naturally mummified. But this is actually one of the more this is the main story that really drew us to the entire area of Mars, was this shadowy phantom cat that just kind of appears, disappears. I mean, so much so that that's actually the tattoo shop was one of the places that we followed a cat's meow outside. And so we just kind of assumed with those stories that maybe we were running into this town cat. It wasn't until this spooktacular that we were kind of pulled back in here, and we were finally let in. And I think Aaron and Dan both could tell my excitement because I had heard the history of this place, and
Yes.
and ever since then, though, ever since these people have been running a museum, they've been hearing these cat meows. Specifically, they've been, you know how you can tell when a cat's walking. There's definitely a difference between a dog and a cat. It's such a very light, uh, just a paw tap, and so people were hearing that. Construction workers were seeing paw prints in sawdust. So it's said that the cat returns still to this day, and I'm fairly certain we came across him, her, I don't really know, at the tattoo shop, and we think that we came across her here too, uh, perhaps indirectly, actually. I think Aaron and I were actually in the other room when Dan was doing his own thing, in the room across the way. All of a sudden, her and I are talking. I think we were setting up a camera, and he goes, "Did you hear that?" It was just we had no equipment. Well, we had no recorders running at the time, so we couldn't play it back and listen. Luckily, we did catch this through one of our static recorders or our static cameras. So I transitioned the camera into an MP3 and started to clean it up that way. So if you go into the recording section, there's actually a few different variations of this. One is just the kind of unedited, untouched where he thought that he heard a meow. I touched the other one up a little bit, and then it started to get a little bit distorted. So that's kind of where I stopped. But
Yeah.
if you go back to the train station, there's a recordings folder. I believe I tried to name these as best I could. I don't see the name on that one. I don't know why, but okay. I believe it's going to be towards the bottom actually, because it occurred in the middle room.
All right. Let's see if we can try to see more of the names here.
There we go. Oh,
Oh, come on.
You'll get it. No,
Sorry, I'm having to borrow a family member's laptop because mine went to shit on me.
Man, we've all been there. I get it.
Like, come on.
Try again. I can also attempt to drive if you like, but I usually like to let you kind of play it back time and time again and hear what you have to say.
All right, middle room. Oh, I'm in the pictures again. God damn it. Too far.
No such thing.
Okay.
Not here.
Middle room. Okay. I didn't do it.
Almost there.
Now bass.
There you go.
Is that it? All
Yeah.
right.
Might have to crank the volume up. I'm not really sure how it's going to come through here.
All right. Check settings real quick. Should be all right.
Okay. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
This is what Dan heard like in person. So he wasn't 100% sure what he heard. This was ripped directly from the video, like just straight MP3 from the video file. So you can hear a little bit of distortion in the background, but we definitely heard what he heard. Uncertain, I believe, at first what it was. I don't know how you felt about it, Aaron, the first time you heard this, but
yeah. Well, it was more so because we were in the other room talking about Chessie at that time, and we heard Dan from the other room go, "Guys, did you just hear that? I heard a cat meow." And so we went back in, and that's when he explained what he was doing.
That's right.
So it was just interesting, the combination of the two. If you go to the next emphasized one, you can hear it a lot more clearly.
That's the point
like
that I
bass one. The one that he edited up just a little bit to make it a little bit clearer. Yeah, that enhanced one time.
All right. Definitely.
Yeah.
I kept it short so you could just kind of keep playing it back over and over again until that's the
little meow.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a female cat trying to get attention.
Yeah, and I think I tried to clean it up one more time, and then it started to get a little bit distorted. So
Yeah,
it got a little bit more difficult to hear. But either way, I mean, it was a very intriguing moment, especially knowing the backstory to that place.
Yeah. You hear it.
Yeah. I think what is so interesting about this particular place, the cat is very cool. But we went into this place thinking, quite honestly, like nobody had been there before. We're probably just going to hear a cat, and that's it. And so we were supposed to be there at 8. We'll probably be done at 10.
Yeah, we actually had that conversation back and forth with each other. We're like, we'll be out of there in 2 hours.
We'll there's not a problem. That was not the case.
I think it was 3 a.m. that we were there until.
Yes, and it was not because of that cat. I can tell you that right now.
No, but that was just a good introduction. But yes, you're absolutely
good introduction. It was a great introduction.
Yeah, so that's the main and old stories that were told. Recently, we started talking to their historical society who have been opening the museum more and more. they actually installed like a mini, I forget what she called it, but some kind of mini rail line outside, so kids could ride it. They added a caboose in so you could see what it used to look like. So they've been adding things to this, so they've been there more often. In which case, they've been seeing more things. They don't know what they're seeing. They don't have a clue what it is. They think they're going crazy half the time. They they just think that they're seeing things. They don't want to think about it, and I don't blame them being there by themselves, but so they kind of hooked up with us through the tattoo shop, through the event, and we were fine. We were able to go in, and the owner was, or not owner, but one of the volunteers who lived across the street actually was able to join us for this one. So she was able to help us out, kind of guide us what she's seen, experienced, what other guests have felt there too. But it was kind of clean slate when we were going into this place.
Yeah.
Very good. I'm impressed so far just with the cat, but damn.
Yeah, I mean that we tried to focus in on the cat a little bit. A few of these areas were just so untouched that we didn't really have a clue where to start. But so we kind of opened the floor up, and we just started where we thought would have the most activity in this middle area. We just called it the middle room, which is where we heard the cat. It was one of those waiting areas where you'd go in, you'd buy your ticket, you wait for the train. This is also an area where they actually had their storage room across the hallway, so they would move all their storage, so their employees would be from one side to the other side. It'd be a very highly trafficked area. And that's kind of where we started, thinking maybe we'll get something, even if it's residual, we'll get something going here, right? We'll start feeding some energy in, maybe playing off of it, getting something to come back and talk to us. And I think, Aaron, at this point, it was still early on, but you did feel that, I know that I referenced your sensations quite a few times when I was listening through this.
Yeah.
But of your experiences, your sensations you were getting there.
Yeah. So we started in that middle room, like Derek said, because we didn't really know where to start. But both Dan and I, when we did that initial walk through, we felt quite a bit of a pull towards the storage room area. And so we kind of wanted to start there, but I felt like whatever was there wasn't ready yet, right? Like whoever is in that place hasn't been in touch with anybody. They don't understand what we're trying to do. They didn't understand the equipment. They didn't understand how to interact with it, anything like that. So whoever was in that back room just didn't seem like he was ready yet. So we started in that middle room. And as soon as we started interacting with some of our equipment, and the guy started explaining what the different equipment did, I started feeling pulls back towards that room, and I started getting sensations of being touched on my hand too. Like he was just kind of dipping the toe in a little bit to say like, okay, I understand. I'm ready now. But yeah, once we stayed in that middle room for a little while, I don't know that we got very much besides Chessie coming through.
We didn't, but this was one of those investigations that was very interesting to look back on, because we started to get certain things early in the night that made absolutely no sense. But when we finally moved on, when we were kind of pulled later in the night, things started to kind of come together, and it kind of gave us a picture of what we were dealing with. But to this point, we didn't really have much. However, in that room, kind of as Aaron said, it was the timing of it was interesting, as if someone was trying to get our attention. So if you go back into that recording, sorry to go back, but all the way to the last file in there, it was a humming noise. Like they were like kind of trying to just say, "Hey, we're here," completely unprompted. I don't believe anyone else was talking at the moment. It was just a very odd. That's me creeping.
Doesn't feel like a touch, but it feels like a tingle.
Just like an energy surge or
Just
something.
an energy right there, really, really light energy.
Right at the end, it was all we had heard, and that you can hear us talking kind of as a group. Aaron was starting to feel that touch, and at the very end of that, I mean, you can play it back if you like. It's really hard to hear on here, but I know that as a group looking back on it, we heard that was kind of part of the pull to us to go into that next room.
All right. Go ahead, play it in.
That's me creeping.
Doesn't feel like a
Just like an energy surge or something.
Does kind of like sound like there's a little bit of low talking in there.
Yes, and that's what we were hearing. Like, just I don't know how to explain it. Other than this was the emotions that were kind of heard, if that makes any sense. It all kind of came together, and it at the end of the night it made sense because we were definitely pulled in there from the middle room.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
But that's when we moved on though to that room that Aaron was talking about, and it was odd. At first, it seemed like somebody was playing games with us, but you definitely felt like there was something being pulled in that back corner, especially.
So at one point too, when we were in that middle room, Derek went and set up one of the little flashlights. What do you call the little bitty flashlights?
The mag lights, mini mags.
Yep, so he set that up on a little stool in the back corner, and I was standing in the doorway so I could see into the middle room, but also into that back room. And you could see this mag light just keep on going on and off. And like in my mind's eye, I could just see this little old man just hanging out there, just messing with it. Like he was just having so much fun, just playing with this thing. He didn't really engage with us all that much once we were in there, but you could feel this like playful energy with him. It was something that he knew how to use. It was something that he had used in his life. He knew how to play with it. He knew how to use it. And so I could just like mentally see him just sitting there playing with it. Right. And it was so interesting because once we got in there and we really started engaging with them, especially with that back railroad system, like they had a toy railroad system back there. And Derek, I'll let you talk about that a little bit more, but like that playfulness definitely came out whenever we were engaging with that railroad system in the back.
Yeah, so the room that she's talking about there, this is what we considered Chessie's room because naturally that's where she is mounted. Yep. But in this room they have a lot of old artifacts, old antiques, a lot of things that were donated just kind of throughout the town. People would just kind of come up. They didn't have anything else to do with it, so they started to just collect it in this area. So they were able to kind of show off some artifacts around the Chessie Cat. In the middle is this actually old. It's really cool. It's one of those old up and down push carts that would go on railroad tracks. But on the far side, there's a miniature railroad that is I forget what the size is, but it was a percentage of the model of the entire town and where the train used to run through. So it was really cool to see. But interestingly enough, the gentleman who really put his heart and soul into this place, who spent a lot of his time building this, his own money building this thing, it was kind of pride and joy when it was all said and done. But it was, Aaron, I don't know if you remember, but it was a couple years ago that this man passed away, correct?
Yeah, 5 years. I think it was 5 years ago that he had passed away.
So I mean, just kind of, it wasn't even her trying to tell the story, not saying he's here or anything, but we heard this story. She was proud of it. You know, she knew he was proud of it. So she was just kind of sharing it with us. You know, he's just no longer with us. And it seems like the model railroad, it was seemingly active. For one, we set trail cams on it just to watch it, and throughout the night, I think we do have some videos in here. But throughout the night, we saw lights turn on and off inside the model railroad. It was just really cool to see. I mean, no rhyme or reason. Didn't make any sense, and there was no power to it at the time. We found the on-off button, so you know. It makes a lot of noise, so you know when it's on, it moves. But these things are stationary all night long, and you could see some lights turn on and off, you know, all throughout the night. So we just kind of thought that was a cool. We don't know if that was him or not, but it would have made sense, right? That he'd still be coming back playing with it, having fun with it. But more so, we, like Aaron said, we've got in there and we felt like this guy was playing with us. Somebody was playing with us. Yeah. And then Dan started feeling like somebody was in the corner, the exact same corner where that flashlight was. Just said it felt like a shadow. And Aaron, I think you said that you felt that too, but he felt it much more predominantly. And we do have a few recordings of what he had heard. Aaron and I didn't really hear it at the time, so we didn't really pursue it. But Dan did hear, was it like a knocking or somebody like, trying to tap on it on something?
Yeah.
But where the noise was coming from was like halfway inside the model railroad. There was no way to get back there, so there's no way that there was anything back on that side. We checked it out. There's nothing loose, nothing repetitively made that noise throughout the night, so it wasn't any kind of MEP systems. But we thought we do have a few of these in the recordings if you want to try to pull them up. But again, just a few interesting things there that we heard throughout the night as we kind of got ourselves started there.
All right, we can definitely try to see if we can find them here. Yeah.
So at the very bottom of the chassis section, let's say, there are two that are kind of perfect examples of some of the things that we were hearing throughout the night. Now I don't see the knocks in here. That may actually be through more of a video, but what we had heard quite a few times was when we were running the Phasma box, a train whistle. This happened a few times, but we also heard a whistling, like a not that I can whistle at all, but that kind of whistle. But that's also in there that we heard that. That's the last one. If you want to try to pull that up, see if you can hear that whistling that we heard.
All right, yeah, it's like here.
Can you turn that light on very bright?
It was right there.
Mm-hmm.
It was like at 18 seconds. It was very light, but that's the kind of thing that Dan kept hearing. That was similar to the knocks, similar to just the weird little noises he was hearing. This was the one that came through the most, though.
Mm-hmm.
It's the brightest it's been.
Yeah.
So again, very minimal, but we kind of started putting things together at that point, feeling that something was in that room in that back corner. From which point we figured, you heard Dan in that clip too, asking if they could use the light to turn it on off, which we've had great success with in the past. But we were getting nothing. Like if you even refer back to Erin's thoughts and what she was feeling, if this guy was here, he was messing with us. He wasn't giving us answers. He didn't want to talk to us. Not really.
He just wanted to play.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we decided, though, to try to give them a voice. We're thinking something's here. They don't seem to want to just, communicate this way. Let's try to let them talk. So we got the Phasma box going. And some very strange things, some things that we do hearken back to later in the night. But here, one of the very first things we heard as we're sitting discussing the miniature train, this other clip, it's the next one up from the one that you were at. I'll let you listen to it and tell me what you think. Although,
Do you want me to turn the train on? That was a train whistle.
That was a train whistle.
That is freaking phenomenal. Let's do this. Did you build the train? The model, not the actual train, but the model.
Speed there.
Yeah, I did.
that was the obelisk. It said shh.
Basically, train stop.
Train stop? Oh my god.
Get out of here. Did it just shush the train?
Yeah, and then
So you can tell we enjoy ourselves when we do these things. Because if you didn't, why would you do them?
Exactly.
But you could hear Dan's enthusiasm. He was like, let's go. So we started getting some of these things and we started putting them together, and the timing of it, I don't think any of us believe in coincidence anymore. Not after doing some of these things. And so the timing of the train, you could hear it in the background, the miniature train kind of puffing along, And as that happened, you heard the word train whistle. It was like, wait a second, hold on. And we just wanted to listen in. I mean, I know we kind of went a little bit crazy, but in the back of our minds, we're like, all right, let's let this play out, which is why it's such a long clip, because we just kind of let it go and just to see where it would go with it. But it was very interesting to continue that conversation throughout, and them knowing when the train was stopping and when it was quiet, and almost like thank you. They liked the quiet, but that kind of really started us going as we continued through the night to actually pick up some kind of communication there.
That's definitely an interesting one.
Yeah, and I mean it's like I said, it's more of the timing of it than anything. You put all those things together, plus the train had just stopped. It fits. I mean, and you have to be at least a partial believer to go into these things. I mean, at least to kind of try to communicate. You have to think something's there. So you hear these things, you start putting these things together, and let's see where this goes. Let's talk to these people. We always say the same thing. Let's talk to these people like they're somebody. Like they were somebody, that they're still here for whatever reason. They're tied to this place. So we try to go into these things and just talk to them like they're people. Hey, we're here to talk to you. Yeah, sometimes we come a long way to do it, and we try to stir things up that way. And again, nothing known about this place. We had no direction. So we started to try to find out who this was that was talking to us. We did get a few names, and looking back on it, I do believe that the man's name was Bill. So we heard the name Bill. However, we don't know if this was Bill we were speaking to, if they knew of Bill, who Bill was, just because he was there so long and how much time, energy, sweat he put into this thing. But we definitely got the name Bill repeated to us in one of these clips here. There's another one where we recorded the name Benjamin as we were just trying to speak with anybody. So actually, it's the first two clips of this whole thing, of this whole folder. I mean, the first one's the one where we heard I don't like to give things away. But obviously they're named that way, and we're just talking about them. So what choice do we have, right? But this is the one where we heard the name Benjamin, and then I mean, you can kind of see where it's going, and then we ended up getting Dan's name at the end of it.
All right.
We'd love to know your name.
anybody in this entire building can hear me and would like to come talk, please come do so.
Hold on. Also, I just shifted around. Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes. This is Dan. Entry. Bonetown Dan and entry.
They always like to screw with Dan, don't they?
Always. It doesn't matter what we're dealing with, where we are, always. But this was just kind of an example of one of those names that we were hearing, some of the intelligence that we were feeling. And if you wanted to go to that next clip, you could try to listen for Bill repeated there. But more interestingly, and we had no idea at the time, we got the name of Schmidt. We'll tell you in a minute if you want to find that clip as well.
All right.
Is this Bill?
Bill? Is that you, Bill?
Thanks, Dan. always the interesting one, right? He's the talent. But you could hear the name Bill there a few times. One of which I thought it was Dan saying it. I went back. First. I talked to him, and he said he did not say the name Bill first. And then I also had a video on it to kind of cross-reference it, and it was actually the name Bill that we heard there, and it was not Dan's voice.
It definitely does kind of sound like voice similar to Dan's. I can see where that confusion would come in.
That's exactly why I went back to him at first. Like, did you see this? Like,
Yeah, you fucking like that.
But no, I was kind of able to kind of reference the camera footage from looking at him. Unfortunately, the entire time. I mean, fortunately.
He's not even here to defend himself, Derek.
That's why I'm doing it now. Punch later. Anyway, but so the last name that we had heard that was interesting later on. If you want to listen for that one now, you can. If you want to come back to it later, we can do that too. But the night kind of progressed in a different manner than we were intending after this one.
Mm-hmm.
So was it that Schmidt one you were talking about?
It's Schmidt, yeah. It's the third from the bottom of Chessie, I believe.
Third from the bottom, Chessie. Yep.
I got my phone here. It's coming in handy.
Yeah. Dude.
You guys can better explain.
Got approval.
Yeah, I'm just trying to focus in on it.
Yeah, I heard that.
So this uses like radio waves. So you can explain that.
Correct. Yeah, it uses radio. It's essentially like radio frequencies, kind of like that spirit box that we used before, and it electronically cleans up all the white noise so that you don't have all that white noise sound bleeding through. And
Schmidt.
See, we actually heard it in person. I won't explain what a Phasma box is because Dan just did, and he's not even on the show. But he was just in the process of explaining it, so we weren't asking at the time, who was there. We were just kind of sitting there having a completely different conversation, and you can hear it just kind of snuck in there. The name Schmidt. It's at the very tail end, and that actually made no sense to us at the time, and we thought we were striking out. So we ultimately headed back. We were going to take a break. We were like, let's reset, kind of get our bearings here. As we were walking out of the room, I remember this because I'm like, crap, I wanted to take a break too. Dan felt this warm puff of smoke. Just strange. Usually you feel cold spots, right? I mean, that's what everybody says. We felt them time and time again, but it was a warm puff of smoke. And I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe, a furnace or something just kicked on. Mm-hmm. Again, nothing in that building. So there was nothing kicking on. Didn't think much of it, right? I mean, so we tried to progress with a break. Like I really needed to pee, but we got a very minimal window. But as we did that, Dan and I walked out back around to the bathroom. It's where the caboose was, and he just got this really weird feeling about it. And so we walked up to it, took some pictures about it. Nothing's really known about it. But in the process of standing back there and just kind of like looking at it, the lights turned on. No idea why. I mean, there were clearly lights on it, but they weren't like plugged in. They weren't powered on or anything. We also asked the volunteer in the middle, like right after this, as we came back in, like, is there any rhyme or reason? Is it on a timer? Could somebody be hitting a switch? Could we have hit a switch? Nothing. So, I mean, we didn't do much there. Dan didn't he kind of felt unsettled as he went up there. He couldn't even walk to the bottom or the middle of the step. So I kind of went up, took some pictures. I didn't really feel much, but so we went back in, didn't think anything of it. At this point, Aaron, is this where you had your conversation with her though?
Well, part of that too is I had also gone out. You and I had also gone out to the caboose as well. I think before you and Dan did, and I had that same, probably like the same. Oh, it was awful. The vibes coming off of that thing, like I didn't even want to be on the first step. I didn't want to be anywhere near it. And I think that's when you took Dan back out as well.
That's
and while
right.
you were out there, yeah. So during this break, there were a couple different weird things that happened, right? Like at one point, Derek stepped out and it was just Dan and I in there with Chris chatting. And the woman who helped, who was there with us that night, she was telling us about the house that she lived in and how it used to be associated with the railroad there. And it was so interesting because as she was in that back room with Dan talking about her house and how there used to be a restaurant attached and how there was like a boarding house there, she's talking about that, and I'm in the other room and the obelisk comes up with just the number 7 as she's telling Dan, oh yeah, the restaurant's name was 7. Like it's just like little things like that were happening throughout, which was very odd. But yeah, I had quite a bit of conversation with her just about the building in general, but the tie to her house. I mean, talking about having a tie into the community there, and there's some funky fun stuff going on for sure. But there's definitely a tie from that railroad station to her house, which is only across the street from what I remember. Like it's not very far, right there.
Yeah, she said she was like right across there was a railroad, then a street, and she was right across from it. So she lived right there. She could see it, from her living room.
But once we all got back together, we were standing in that middle room, and there was like one other room that we actually didn't do much in. But as we're standing there, Dan comes back in and makes a comment again about how it's getting warm. Like, hey, did the heaters come? Like, it was like a chilly night. It was raining. It was not the warmest. And he said, oh, did the heaters pop on? And the lady's like, no, there's no heaters in here. He had felt that puff of heat come back again. And that's kind of what we kind of followed that into the back.
The whole thing was interesting because we weren't planning on spending any time in this back room. It was odd. It was a small storage
room. It was a closet. It was literally like a closet. It was so small.
Right. They had it like baby gated off, like with a little employees only sign. There was nothing to it. But we were this was all happening as we're standing around talking to the volunteer, and we're like, can we go back there? Like, is it do you care? She's like, no, go for it. So we didn't even think about it at first. So we kind of just started getting a feel for the location. I tossed some cat balls out, tossed the camera there, kind of prepped us. And as we were doing that, I believe it was Dan who first got like that real weird pull.
Well, he felt heat in there too again. Once we got into that room, he felt that rush of heat again too.
But he said it was a little bit different, almost like it was a relief kind of thing, where it's like, okay, we finally got them here. We wanted them back here for some reason. Anyway, there's in the back of the room, there's really no room to move. We do have a few pictures just for you to kind of get your feel for it if you want in the picture section. But it's a bunch of weird medical stuff donated, a lot of things that were there from an old chiropractor's office, just a whole lot of stuff. So I mentioned earlier to you, Dakota, off to the side, that we wanted to show you a few pictures and just to see how you felt about them. So the medical rooms there's 2 of them under the chassis, and then there's one way up at the top that I'll have you go to as well. But give me your impressions. I'm just curious how you feel about this, and we'll go into it more after.
That's interesting. almost looks like to me there might be someone standing either right next to it or on the inside of that glass box there.
Interesting. So Aaron, actually, we didn't really think much. I didn't think much of it. We barely even documented this room, which is why it's not the best of pictures, because we didn't go very far back in it, and we usually like to cross-reference pictures early on in the night, a walkthrough, whatever. This is the best. Erin ended up sneaking her way into there somehow with the little walking camera. That's how we got this image. So that ultimately was our focal point, and Erin actually had some insight on these boxes and what they were. You can see the black chair there I was referring to before. Dan sat in it. He didn't last long. He didn't really want to. And he said he felt something was watching him over his back shoulder.
Yeah, he felt like he couldn't settle in there. Like normally he can get into a space and he can settle and he can feel, and he couldn't settle in there. And he kept on feeling like there was something behind him. And so he ended up swapping out. He couldn't stand sitting there anymore. The room is very small. So I think if you go, is it the next picture, Derek, that shows the full room?
Yeah, I think the next picture shows the room as a full.
That's not the
so
one.
There's a different one. You're referring to the other brighter one.
I am. I'm referring to the other
so
one.
It's the one that I asterisked so we could refer to it.
Gotcha.
Yes. So again, not great lighting, but you can tell that this is a very small room. You can kind of see where the black chair is there. But like, so I was standing outside the room. The guys were inside the room. Dan decided he needed to step out. And so I sat in that same chair that he was in. I had that same feeling, just very unsettled. It was totally dark in the room at the time. We couldn't see what was around us. We really hadn't looked in the room at all to see that there was that large box behind us. But you could feel that there was a presence that was behind. And so at one point, I know we have it on video. I don't know if you have it on recording or not, Derek, but I know it's a long recording if it is. But at one point, Derek and I are in and we're chatting, and I said to him, like, okay, there's definitely something behind us. Like, what the heck is behind us? And I got up and I turned around and we were looking around. There's literally just like a ratty old desk on the one side and then this box on the other side. And we kind of stood there and looked at it and looked at it and looked at it. And I looked at Derek and I said, I think that there used to be a skeleton in there. Mm-hmm. I think that's a box that you would have.
Definitely a display case.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we went back out.
Yep, we just asked. I mean, we just were direct with her, like, do you know what this is?
Yeah. So we asked Chris when we went back out. We said we asked her, not keeping in mind that this is all stuff from a chiropractor's office, a local chiropractor, and she said, yeah, there used to be a skeleton that hung in there. It was there whenever she started working there, but it wasn't there anymore. And so as soon as we found that out, we were like, oh,
yeah. So I mean, first, any guesses on the chiropractor's name?
Not off the top of my head, but I am kind of intrigued where it could just very well be how the camera processed the image when it was taken, but right about where the display case is, it does kind of look like there's somebody very skinny standing right there.
Which a lot of things tells us that that's how he remembers himself. But yeah, I don't. So I mean, it was a very kind of emotional, I guess I would call it, like eventful, especially eventful. Probably the very best Estes method we've ever had.
Yeah.
Being that Aaron and Dan both were feeling this way, and I was like, I'll be the bait, whatever. I sat in the chair and I listened in. That's all I did. To the spirit box at this point, and I just kind of said what I heard, what I could hear, and I'm the one that listens to these things all the time. So I kind of have an ear for what I'm listening for, the breaks in the static, that kind of thing. So I'm just kind of spouting out whatever I'm hearing. At this point, it was more Aaron and Dan's ball game. It lasted, 35, 40 minutes is what we ended up with?
It was a long time, and it was one of the most exceptional conversations. It was not spouting off random stuff. We had a conversation with this person. We had a name. We knew things about him. And I can tell you just from after we figured out what was behind us, just like you were saying, Dakota, you could feel him. He was standing next to that box with his arms crossed, just sitting there. He was guarding it. That's where he was. That's where he was placed. And he was just He had been waiting there all night for us to get back to him.
And if
Waiting all
so,
night. And that conversation with him, first of all, I wish that Dan were on here today because he did not want to talk to me at all. He didn't want to have anything to do with me. Anytime I would ask a question, he either just would not respond or he would like physically touch Dan and like redirect the question back to him. And the interactions that Dan and he had,
all the
excellent.
while we heard not you or something in reference to
Yep.
the woman or whatever, so they did not want to talk to her for whatever reason.
Not interested. No,
And
sir.
I know from, there's no way we could go through all these because it was like she said, it was a conversation. It was a 40-minute long conversation we had, and there's no way we can make it through all of these. However, there are a few that are just so crazy. Like, we got the guy's name. If you go to one of the recordings about the medical room, I believe I have it. I'm sure I'm just going to give it away, but the name Dave or David. And we got this a few times actually, and I don't have a clue what's going on conversation wise when I'm under with this the noise canceling headphones. Not a clue. So when I put these things together and listen to both sides, what I'm hearing, what I remember hearing, this name came across so clear to me, and it came across a few times.
Yeah.
Let me see.
It come here many pieces.
Yes.
Yeah, see, there's another one. Feel free to click on any of those. I tried to pull the better ones, but if you want the story along with these, I think the story is a lot more intriguing than any of the evidence because it all tied together so much.
Can I?
Oh, all you, Aaron. Go.
It was amazing. Okay, so first of all, he didn't want to start talking at first. He didn't know how to interact, just like some of the other ones, but he wanted to talk, but he didn't want to talk. He was nervous. But by the time we finally started pulling things out, he started by telling us what his name was. He repeated it multiple times. But then he just started like saying full freaking sentences. Like, we came to the realization that there was a skeleton that was in that box that was in can I say the doctor's name? Can I do it? Yep. Was in Dr. Schmidt's office in the local. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So
the
cliche.
local therapist's office. Sorry, I couldn't help myself, And so this skeleton has been hanging there for years. And he literally said, I came here many pieces. I couldn't breathe.
So there is one. Go to the bottom medical room. It's medical room whistling.
This was
room
amazing.
whistling.
Mm-hmm.
Dave and body. Wow.
Yeah. I don't know how long this one is, but this is one of the more intriguing ones, I think.
We'll give you the opportunity to come forward and talk to us in a completely open and honest way. We're here to be part of the solution. Dave. Body.
So that was, you can hear what we're fighting through when we're listening to this stuff sometimes, because it's very minimal, but you can hear me as we combine this, kind of saying what I hear. So you hear both sides of it in this.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the name that kept coming through, that Dave.
Kept coming through. Yep. He told us that, he came there in many pieces, that he couldn't breathe when he died, that he felt like he was dust, that he had one child, that he was German, that he wanted to get his body back, that it was absolutely incredible. Some of the stuff that was coming through.
Yeah, like I said, you can pick out any of those really. They're just kind of the ones that were more pieced together for more of a conversation's sake, but honestly, we could sit here and listen to the entire thing, and we wouldn't have enough time for it. But I do remember when we were completely done with that, however long it was. I don't know. I lose track of time when I'm under that, and I couldn't believe how just exhausted I was. I was just like so drained at that point that I was like, I'm done. I'm completely spent here, and wasn't communicating. I wasn't the one that was talking back both ways. You know what I mean? I didn't have that conversation. I was just kind of listening in. So it was intense just on my end, having no idea what was going on.
Definitely. Good. Very curious about this one now.
Mhm.
Man, I'm morbid.
Human being ever deserve to be put on display against their will or not, at least without their knowledge or their acceptance. It's not okay. Like I said, even though we don't have anything to do with what we do with part of it for that, because it deserves more than that. You deserve more respect than that.
Have come here, I think.
I have come here. What did you come back to do? That was far, Dave, and I appreciate everything you're doing today, so we would like to finish that.
many.
You have come here many.
Pieces. We know it's long. So thanks for sticking that out. But you can see how it was. I mean, these things were drawn out to an extent where, again, not a clue what I was hearing on my end, and it was like a drawn out conversation where I've come here in many pieces, as if he was brought here as the skeleton, as the already hung body.
Yep.
But I mean, these are so many of the things that just tied together for us. And at the end of this session, like, we were all done. I could hear it in Dan's voice when I'm listening back to the recordings, like how done he was.
Yeah.
But with the intelligence and everything, even closing it out was pretty incredible, because he had thanked him.
Mhm.
He's just being very appreciative, right? And what we hear in return is, "You're always welcome." I mean, like, they knew they knew we were done, and they kind of wanted to have us back. They wanted us to know that we were welcome there to come talk to them, which we hope to do.
Mhm.
But we did, with putting all this information together, that perhaps this missing skeleton maybe wanted to be laid to rest, or back where he thought he belonged, whatever the case may be. We did try to find out what happened to it. Who owned the case, what happened with the body that was hanging there at one time.
Mhm.
And we found out that it was a real skeleton, and that at one point, after the chiropractor had closed, he had sold the body off. You know, it's a medical prop, right? So he probably wouldn't have thought anything of it, but he sold the body off we don't know where it is at this point. Unless, I mean, is there any? I don't really think that there's really been much more aside from us talking to their board and seeing where to go from there. But we're really trying to track this down and see if we can put any of these puzzle pieces together.
Towards the beginning of that, as Dan was talking, that it wasn't right that he was just openly displayed like that. It almost like I could hear Mel's voice trying to say, thank you for saying that. He was being appreciative to the sentiment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing, evidence aside, putting the experience aside, like it was long, it was drawn out, but man, they were hitting these questions right on. It was just there's no other way to put it than what Aaron was saying, how exceptional that truly was.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, we are hoping to go back here, and I do know that that they kind of work on donations alone. So I would be remiss if I didn't want to throw that out there to everybody. I know you guys had already shared it, but they do accept donations, kind of big and small, just to kind of help keep the place running. So we're always just looking to help out somebody else. That's why we do this most of the time.
Yeah, and for those who may be interested, the link is on the screen as well as in the description of the episode or earlier on in the chat, depending on whatever platform you're listening to this through, because unfortunately not everything gets through, but that's just the problem that we have with how we have this set up. But
you can always reach out to us. We can send you the link directly.
Yeah, and the link to their website is also in the description of this episode.
Yeah, I didn't want to drag you out any longer. I know that we could probably keep your entire time. Right now. I'll be around.
Dave, do you want us to find out what happened to your body and come back?
Get back. Alright.
Get back. Home.
Dave, I promise we're going to find out everything that we can and we'll be back to let you know what happened, okay? Is it okay if we leave that there?
You are.
I'm what? He's so good at it. Dave, what are you saying? I am what?
Always. Welcome. So again, there's a lot to take in, right? I mean, see, we knew they'd come.
Yeah, she's yelling at me. The door's shut. They can't get out.
But no, I mean, So I mean, if you are interested, if anyone out there listening is interested, we can you can always listen to it, look through everything, videos, pictures, everything on our website at ironcityparanormal.org. We have everything there from a brief history right up to a full investigation to a short 4-page kind of condensed version. But so we have everything up there, and if you're interested in some of these things, I can speak from 7 years of doing this, 8 years of doing this. I've never been a part of something that phenomenal, really.
Yeah, something like that. That is very rare to find a case like that.
Yeah, and we're really scratching at the bit to go back. So we're definitely interested to see where this takes us.
Oh, without a doubt.
But with that said, what we want to do is kind of give you a taste for what our next investigation. This one was from Lake Shawnee,
Okay.
and it was just Dan and I. It was interesting. There was one location though, just in particular. If you go into the pictures, I don't really want to tell you anything about it yet. But there was one spot we just didn't feel right. So we shared it with Erin, and she had the exact same feeling. So I'm curious how you would feel about this. It's all the way at the bottom, the last one. Again, I know I give things away. I'm sorry.
Huh.
I don't think that's actually.
That's not the right picture.
Well, at the bottom.
That's my bad. Okay, you can still look at it. It's still creepy. Okay.
I just know about what y'all said. I haven't had a chance to look at these.
Hey, well, look through it and see how you feel about it. Oh, son of a! I added the wrong one. So much for a teaser. Okay, give me 2 seconds. I got it.
Are you sure?
No, never really sure of anything anymore.
Who is these days?
Okay, found it. Uploading it to that picture's right there. Right now? No, it's just a screenshot, so I apologize. But there it is. Raw image IMG. It should have just popped up. Cool.
Yep, just
I could have done it faster if technology was better. So zoom into that guy. I know, like I said, it's a screenshot, but I wanted to get my point across. That's actually coming through decently.
Oh yeah.
See, Aaron, I knew which picture I wanted.
I know.
Just initial thoughts, because I think this came upon Aaron pretty quickly, right? When you first saw this, Aaron, I think you said that you pretty quick to it.
Not this particular picture, but yes, the picture that I'm thinking of it did.
Oh, this isn't the picture? Come on. I thought this was the one. I really am striking out here.
Hold on, let me see if I can find it.
But still, first impressions alone.
Kind of get the feeling that somebody got hurt here.
So there's quite a few things to take with that. We don't know. We have stories and we have our experience. Here is where we just walked by it at first and said we're probably not going to spend much time here. There's not much known about it. But Dan's like, no, I don't like it. I don't want to spend any time on it. I don't want to do anything near it. So I'm like, okay, cool. First off, I respect that. I'm not going to push him into something he didn't want to do, but I did want to use that, right? So what I did is just kind of set some things there, and throughout the night we saw things that kind of popped up and came and went. So this is a different angle, and what we're looking at, these ticket booths are kind of all over the place. See, she just texted me. See,
Yes,
she's
sir.
on it at least. But I mean, just these impressions about these things. Like, these ticket booths are all the same, and one of the predominant stories is that it chased somebody out of the park. So there's that.
Yeah, getting a feeling that this doll here has something to do with that.
Okay.
I mean, that doll is creepy.
Yeah, it's a little Annabelle looking thing.
So yeah, so these ticket booths are just, I mean, they were bad news, and
Yeah.
Dan felt it immediately as we were walking past this one, and so I set these things out. We had things happen all night, lights going on and off like crazy, but every time we walked past it, we had the same feeling. This just, I'm not welcome here kind of thing. I go to step in there, and it's a bunch of broken boards and stuff, so I didn't want to go too far in, but it was just unsettling, to say the least. And we showed Aaron some of these. We're like, here, look through everything. Tell us what you're feeling in any of these things. And this is one of the ones that she picked out in particular, and she started sending it to her own friends, saying, am I crazy here? Am I feeling this too? But all of these sensations just kind of going together, all coming through a picture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm almost at a loss for words for what I'm wanting to say, because I do not get a vibe that anybody friendly was hanging about in there. Somebody may have gotten hurt. Probably a little bit too grotesque for some of the platforms we're streaming on right now.
It's all possible. I mean, the one thing that we got is that there was somebody there. They wanted to keep reminding us throughout the night, but they weren't going to talk to us. They just wanted us to know that they were there. That was relayed through the message. I think Aaron, me, and Dan all have this big text stream like this, like just talking about it. And it was pretty incredible.
Yeah, so I looked at these. So Derek sent me a whole list of pictures from this place, and there's some really, really cool ones of just like nature taking back over. I remember leafing back through, and there's this picture and another couple that this particular tick booth is in that I felt very uncomfortable looking at. I felt like I was trespassing looking at it. I felt really freaking weird. Like, there was a definite presence that was not very nice. And I ended up sending it to my mom, who was on the stream here a little bit ago. I don't know if she's still on here or not. I did a little test with her, and I also showed her this big folder of pictures, which had like 80 pictures of it. And I said to her, hey, look through this. If there's any of these pictures that like make you feel something, just like let me know. Just pick out a picture, let me know. And after about 5 or 10 minutes, I said, okay, are there any pictures that you didn't like? And she picked out every single picture that this building was in. She's like, I don't really know what you're looking for, but like this one's kind of weird. This one's kind of weird. And it was every single picture that this building was in. And she ended up having those same feelings that I did, that felt like she was trespassing looking at it, that she felt like there was a presence in there that wasn't very nice. And I sent it to another friend of mine too, who did the same exact thing. And it's just, we all came up with the same feeling, same verbiage coming from the same building, the same picture coming through. I don't know if anybody else feels that. Hi, Mom, still here. But it was so like potent for some of us coming through, like even to the point where we could pinpoint through the picture, we could pinpoint where that presence was in that building, even though it's this big. We knew where it was and what he was like, what his ill intentions were.
Yeah.
Just kind of interesting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's kind of where we wanted to leave you for tonight, because I know that that was a lot to digest.
Yes.
Yeah, that definitely. Yeah. I'm at a loss for words here. That never happens.
Yeah, right. We'll take that as a win. But no, I mean, hey, if you get any time, you're more than welcome to all of these, any of these. I mean, you can look forward at some of these if you want to. I mean, you're more than welcome to all of these. We shared them all with you, so you're welcome to it. But we're always looking for input. Even if it's somebody else that you want to pass it along to and get an opinion, we're always looking for that other pair of eyes, someone completely unbiased. So if anybody's listening out there and they're interested, all of our stuff is up online. I know this is usually Dan's thing. He likes to do our plugging, but Instagram, we're at Iron City Paranormal. Facebook, I believe it's the same. Twitter, we are Iron Paranormal, and we have our YouTube channel, which we upload everything raw. We're not editors, we're not in that field. We don't care to be. So everything's raw. We'll get comments all the time, like, what are we looking at here? You tell us, so we're always looking for help, outside opinions, thoughts. You guys are crazies. Everything helps.
Well, we had someone saying that we should be promoting psychiatry in this stream earlier, so.
Nice.
Even the shrinks are getting into this stuff, man. That's not going to help your point. But yeah, definitely. This was definitely one of the more interesting ones. But as always, you guys are always more than welcome to come back, show off whatever you got. We'll always try to find a spot for you.
Yeah, well, we appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Aaron, it was definitely nice meeting you.
It was great being on. Thanks for having me.
No, anytime. The one person I would love to hear their opinion from on this, I think she's driving herself home from work right now, so I don't want to bother her too much. But anyway, well, if that's it, we'll go ahead and sign off here. Ladies and gentlemen, Bald and Bonkers will get back into production on things very soon once all my technical issues are sorted. Got a lot of interesting things coming up. Should be interesting. It's kind of interesting. All my stuff went down after dealing with potential Nazi stuff, but hey, well, don't want to get into that right now. Anyway, much love. Take care. As always, do check these guys out on IronCityParanormal.org, as well as check out this fundraiser to help the Historical Society keep this area, the Mars train station, up and running. We definitely want to try to preserve these locations as much as possible because, even though buildings may look empty, they may not be. You never know. Yep. These days, everybody's voices inside their heads are coming on tape, so you never know. Much love. Take care. See y'all next time.